43 Legion Pipe Band, we're pretty deeply rooted in the history of this community. And we're part of the personality of our community. And as musicians in those bands, we are part of the voice of this community. We speak to people through our music, but as well we speak for people through our music. And that is what we were doing through that piece of music. We were simply conveying the compassion from our community to the soldiers and the families of those soldiers who sadly were making those journeys along the Highway of Heroes. But a very important part of that community voice was that of Mayor Henry. And here is how. In the early stages of that project, I arranged a meeting with Mayor Henry, and we met in that great Canadian meeting spot, Tim Hortons, down here on Ethel Street. And my mission was to appeal to him because we needed help from the city. We had our piece of music that we could perform as a pipe band, but we could not perform it with the Oshawa Civic Band because we needed it professionally arranged for brass. The response that Mayor Henry voiced to that appeal was this. It was simply, I'll fund it. I'll help you. That was the tipping point in that project. That enabled that piece of music to move into our community and beyond. Thank you, Mayor Henry, for that work that you did. David Bradley. David was not able to be here this evening because of a prior commitment. David Bradley is the president of the Ontario Trucking Association. It was the Ontario Trucking Association that funded the recording of our piece of music in its entirety so that it could be shared beyond our community. In voicing his support for our project, David did this. David, first of all, showed an absolutely incredible trust. Trust in our integrity, trust in the integrity of our project, trust that we would not make that project about ourselves, and trust that we would simply do the very best that we could. David also did this, and there's a message here, there's a lesson here. David also showed how important it is and the good that can be accrued when businesses, corporations, groups, institutions, individuals engage at the civic level, when they engage in community building, when they engage at the community level. Thank you very much to David Bradley, and thank you to that community of very benevolent, very giving truckers. Dan Clancy. Dan was not able to be here this evening as well because of his music commitments. Dan, I'm sure there's not an individual here who does not know Dan Clancy, the contribution that Dan has made not only to our local music scene, but as well Dan's stature among musicians and those in the community world nationally and internationally. And of course his role as the lead singer with the group Lighthouse. They just had a sold-out concert Friday night in the Regent Theatre. Absolutely delightful concert. I was there. Dan Clancy gave us two things. Dan gave us, first of all, his expertise. He took us through the entire recording process. He did that so patiently. He did that so comfortably. And Dan also did this. Dan gave us his voice. Dan is the messenger. We could not have found a better voice. And Dan did those things without ever any self-promotion. Thank you very much, Dan Clancy. Phil Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Phil, hang on, Phil. We'll get. I'm just going to say a few words about Phil right now. Phil is the voice of introduction on our CD, and I'm going to quote from Phil's introduction. Phil's introduction goes something like this. My name is Phil Daniel. I'm a veteran of World War II, the Korean War, and peacekeeping with the United Nations. what Phil's participation, what Phil's voice brought to our project was it gave it depth. It ensured that not only do we recognize the service and sacrifice of those from recent campaigns, but we also recognize the service and sacrifice of those from campaigns long past. And it also ensured that we recognize that service and sacrifice of those people who worked for peace, built peace, maintained peace. That is very important, and we must not forget that. And finally, the Parkwood Veterans Hospital, the operational stress injury clinic of that hospital, where each day those veterans, those individuals under treatment for operational stress injuries, each day those individuals hear those voices of staff members, those voices of understanding, those voices of empathy, those voices of compassion, those voices of encouragement, those voices which help bring those people suffering into their communities as full functioning members of their community. Thank you very much, Kathleen, for your services in your Parkwood Veterans Hospital. And so at this time, we're very pleased to bring Phil out. Phil is the carrier of our money. And Kathleen, if you would please. Kathleen, we're very pleased as a community here to present a check to you for $6,000. That brings our total contribution to $20,000 that we've contributed to that foundation. Kathleen, we are so absolutely excited and proud as a community, and we are very pleased to help. Thank you, Kathleen.